So the whole process, the whole idea of these sessions is that we come to a realization of who we actually are, that we are not the physical body, neither are we the emotions, nor are we the thoughts, and definitely not the mind, but we are the soul, that we are spiritual beings with a divine existence, and we are made in the image of God, that we're spiritual beings of divine light, divine love, divine power, and that we are spiritually connected and there's oneness. So, as Master Choa Sui, the founder of Pranic Healing and Arhatmik Yoga, says, that physically there is the illusion of separation, but spiritually there's only oneness. And it is our endeavor through these study sessions to bring about an understanding of the level of oneness that is actually there, that can be there. So, in this session, we'll be talking about the mental body, and we're just going to wait for maybe a few more minutes while everyone joins in. Um, and we'll be able to start off with an idea of the composition of the mental body, how it works, how we can use the mental body, how we can actively use it. So, if you've attended any of our previous study sessions before, the last one being the astral body, where we spoke a lot about the composition, the mental matter, the elemental, the astral matter, the elemental essences, and all those things, and then we started using some practical applications of it. So, in this particular study session about the mental body, I will be trying to making it a little more practical, trying to correlate it with some real world examples on how we can use it and try to enhance our abilities. One of the things, sharing a personal experience, which was really, really amazing regarding the astral body, was when Dr. Fazeli was taking the session. There was a session on dreams. And there was one part wherein she mentioned that, before you go to sleep, if you invoke and ask the higher beings for guidance, that you want to be of service in the inner world, then when you, the soul, when your body is asleep, then you will be taken to the inner world for doing service. Okay, and all the things and the qualities that you have as a human being, as a person, maybe you speak 4 or 5 different languages, maybe you know multiple instruments, maybe you can do various kind of activities. Those activities, those skill sets are utilized when you are in the astral world in order to help people. So, a very practical reason why this knowledge is important right now. There's a global pandemic happening. Okay, there's already chaos and trouble in the world. A lot of people are troubled with the sudden number of souls who've left their bodies, people who've unexpectedly died. They are going through the process of soul evolution. So they are in the lower parts of the astral plane where they are really, really confused, where they are scared, where they need help and guidance. And we, as invisible helpers, we can journey into the astral plane. Part of our service would be to go and help those people, help those souls. So in the physical world, we might be doing meditation, we might be blessing the earth, we might be doing the great invocation, okay, as part of a group, as part of a large group, or maybe even individually. And we'll be helping all those people while in the physical consciousness. But in the energy consciousness, when our body is asleep, we are there in the inner world, we are helping them out to actively move and evolve. So, okay, there's a trauma. I know healing. I can remove the energy of trauma. There is some sadness, there is some grief. We can counsel them. Now, suppose you speak English, and suppose, for example, you speak Spanish, just for an example, and there's a fire somewhere, okay, say in a Spanish speaking part of the world, right? The Amazon rainforests. You may be taken over there as service where you're talking to the people who may have lost their lives in the astral world. That's just an example of how the knowledge of spirituality, how this kind of theoretical knowledge translates into something practical, into something tangible as we help people, as we help souls. So, can you imagine the amount of service, the amount of good karma you may have accumulated even when you were asleep? Think about it. It's something really, really fascinating that you, the soul, you started to go into the inner world. You help people in the inner world. You accumulated good karma. And when you come back in the morning to your body, or maybe you're sleeping in the morning, you come back in your body late at night, and then you wake up feeling, okay, I've done something, and I don't know what I did, I don't know where I went, but I'm feeling good about it. Okay? So it's not that your consciousness is broken at any point of time. Your awareness may not be there, but you are consciously helping people in the physical world, and then you go off into the inner worlds and you help. Now, as you evolve, as you, the soul, as you, the person, as you also grow and evolve spiritually, your scope of working also evolves. So think of it like you're working in an organization. You have someone who joins as a summer intern, as a trainee, okay? And they work for a few months, they do a few things. Then they're hired, they're absorbed by the company itself. And they work in a junior position, then they go to a mid level position, then they go to a senior position, and eventually they might even become management or even directorial. So they progress. And this equivalent of this kind of progress can be seen in the spiritual hierarchy when you have someone who is just spiritually curious. So you have probably in your family come across some people. Maybe you were one of those people. I know I was. When I said, oh, I'm interested in something about spirituality, I've heard something about chakras, or yeah, we've got an aura, I don't really know. And then we were introduced to, say, pranic healing, and we learned, okay, there are so many chakras, and there are these energies that we deal with. Then we go into more depth, more study, and we learn that, okay, you know what, we can do distance healing also. We don't have to be limited to healing people in just one part of the world, or those people just close to us. We can heal people anywhere on planet Earth. And then our consciousness expands more and more, our awareness expands more and more. So as a student, we are also growing. So from a casual observer, we become someone who has a spiritual aspiration. Okay, it's called an aspirant. From an aspirant, then there comes a sense of discipline. So, okay, instead of wasting time, we now spend time more productively. We take that discipline, we set aside a time for meditation, we set aside a time for group activity, we set aside a time for family, we set aside a time for whatever other work that we need to do. So this discipline enters our life, and that discipline is what makes a spiritual aspirant a disciple. As we grow more and more with more and more discipline, we are then given more responsibilities. Now, obviously, a very junior person wouldn't be given a large role of responsibility. They would be brought on to work on side projects with senior people. And then, as their apprenticeship progresses, they will get more and more projects in greater detail, with greater responsibility. When they reach a certain level of responsibility where they can be held responsible for certain small scale projects entirely on their own, then they become what is called an initiate. Okay? An initiate is somebody who has been given a certain role of responsibility, has a certain level of spiritual maturity, and they are able to move forward. So then you got something for the first initiation, the second initiation, third initiation, so on and so forth. Now, the initiations that are spoken of in theosophy are very different from any other initiations of any other schools or any other systems. The levels here and the levels there are completely different. Okay, so as Sarjeet has very correctly mentioned, we are available 24/7 for service and learning. Now, interesting part is sometimes we are not aware of the amount of service or the amount of work we have done in the inner world. Most of us, we wake up and we're like, yeah, okay, something happened. I don't really know what, but something, and I feel good about it. Or conversely, something really bad has happened and I don't know what. And has this happened to you? You've woken up and you've got this feeling of unease or dread or foreboding. Okay, and you don't know exactly what it is. And then you read something in the paper or something comes up on the news and you get this sense of deja vu saying, oh, you know what? I knew this was going to happen. Hasn't this happened to you? Oh, I knew this was going to happen, right? It happens. So when our progress is more systematic, when our awareness grows, then we are able to retain our memory of what happens in the inner world as well. Now, this is a function, this is a limitation of the physical brain. When we do more exercises, more spiritual practices, more proper techniques, and the application of those techniques properly, our physical brain remembers the activities that happen in the inner world. Sharing another example, I remember in the ESC, Esoteric Study Club Astral group, on the WhatsApp chat, one person had shared that he dreamt that he was having a class by a senior disciple of the teachers. And he doesn't remember exactly what that class was, but he remembers feeling that he learned quite a lot. So that was a very interesting thing, that the consciousness now starts to expand. And hopefully as time progresses, they will start to remember what techniques they learned in the inner world. So the studies, they help us expand our consciousness, help expand our awareness into what's going to happen in the inner worlds. That said, when we talk about the mental body, if you can see the slide, can you see the slide on the screen that I've put there? Hopefully that's visible to all. So in the mental body, the conclusion of the mental body has these three main points. It says that the soul is immortal, and the future of the soul is like something whose end result is always for growth and splendor, has no limit. So the soul is immortal, and its scope for improvement, its scope for growth and splendor has no limit whatsoever. That's point number one. Point number two, the principle which gives life to us is within us and outside us. Okay, so energy, life force, or prana is within us, it surrounds us and interpenetrates us. And it is undying and eternally beneficent. You cannot see it, you cannot hear it, you cannot smell it. But for those who desire to see it or who desire to perceive it, can be perceived. So you have seeing air prana, seeing ground prana, feeling prana, all of those exercises and techniques which are available. But for an ordinary person who is untrained, who has no idea of any of these things, they can't see, hear, smell, taste, touch prana in any way. But for those who want to perceive it, those who are seeking the truth, they can feel it, right? And the third point is that each person is their own absolute lawgiver. They themselves dispense glory to them or gloom to them. They are the only people who can decree their own life's reward, their own life's punishment. So let's put this into perspective. There is no hell or heaven, okay? The inner world, what is hell or what is heaven, is within us. We are the creators of our own fates, the captain of our own soul, the master of our own destiny. So what does this mean? Suppose there's a person who is extremely, say, a very short-tempered person, and this person has a tendency to get irritated just like that, okay? This person will then spend a lot of time thinking, okay, what does he think of me? What does she think of me? Why did he say that? Why did she say that? So they're very insecure inside themselves all the time. And so they feel this insecurity always playing up, always affecting them. So their life becomes like a living hell, because no matter what circumstances they're in, they cannot find it relaxing. They're always troubled. Now, gradually, if this person starts to de-stress, they start to get rid of the many layers of troubles and difficulties which are within them. They start forgiving, they start letting go, they start practicing loving kindness and non-injury in their thoughts, in their words, in their actions. Then they start getting a sense of peace. So previously, if they used to be angry and insecure 24/7, then they become angry and insecure maybe 12 hours out of 27. They can sleep in peace. Then gradually it becomes that they become angry or upset maybe once a day, then once a week, then once a year, that kind of thing. Their ability to suffer, to cause themselves suffering, is in their own hands. Therefore, the ability to give themselves great relief, for them to be really, really relaxed, that also is in their own hands. So the mental body talks about truth. So if you see the first line over there, these truths, which are as great as life itself, are very simple. Let the food of knowledge be given to all those who are hungry for it. So the three main takeaways that we will have from the mental body is something we already know, especially those of us who have a pranic healing or hatha yoga background. We know that the soul is immortal. We know that there is prana and it exists within us and outside of us. We know that we are the masters of our own destinies. We are creating our own karma. We can use our own karma. We can decree our good karma for good results, and our negative karma will come back to us. And we know this in a certain sense in theory. Some of us have gotten to know it a little more practically, where we've experienced good karma coming back to us, or we've experienced bad karma affecting us. Okay, and as Master Tra very, very interestingly, he says, you can't do something bad and then you decree a large amount of money and say, or you tithe a large amount of money and say, okay, you know what, let this good karma by this tithing come back to me to neutralize the negative karma. It doesn't work like that, because the intention matters. So yeah, you will get some good karma from that amount of money you've tithed, but you'll also have to face the consequences for the negative thing you've done. Okay, you can't necessarily just give money and say, okay, I'm neutralizing my bad karma. These books, these studies are going to give us a more of a mechanical understanding, a technical understanding of the various aspects of the mental body, as we've already gotten for the astral body, and we can use that information to develop ourselves, to develop our mind in a more refined fashion. So now, what are the topics that we'll be covering? Okay, this screen over here is a summary of the various chapters which are there in the mental body book. We'll be spending a brief amount of time in the introduction, the mental elemental essence, and the composition and structure. Then in the next few sessions, we'll be covering more of these parts. Okay, we're talking about the functions and the typical examples. We're going to be talking about the desire mind. Okay, so let's just highlight this particular portion: kama manas, or the desire mind. Kama means desire. Okay, some of you might be familiar with another very famous book of work starting with the word kama. Again, it just means desire. The word manas, manas, manas means mind or mental activity. Okay, someone who uses their mind in order to think, to penetrate through a subject deeply, is someone who's called a muni. Okay, so for those who are familiar with Indian terms or Sanskrit terms, you might have heard across the terms munis and rishis. Okay, so the phrase muni, the word muni, means somebody who actively uses their mind. Okay, that's what the word muni means. Okay, and kama manas is the desire mind, which means it's the mind which is used to, or rather, the impressions of desire which come on to the mind, or the mind creates that desire. So from there on, we're going into thought waves and thought forms. Now, we already covered thought forms in a very, very great detail. So we are not going to spend too much time on that session, but we'll go in a little more depth into thought waves and how those thought waves and thought forms can be used together in order for thought transference, or what we know colloquially as telepathy. Will we be teaching telepathy in this session? I don't think so, but we'll definitely be touching upon it. Okay. And then unconscious thought transference. So like all of you might have an unconscious thought right now. Okay, hey, you should teach us telepathy. It should be there. So that might be unconscious thought transference happening right now. Then on, we're going to move on to the conscious thought transference and the mental healing thought centers. Okay, mental healing thought centers is a very fascinating subject. We'll get into a lot of detail when we come towards that, possibly in the next week or the week after that. Then we're going through the faculties of concentration, of meditation and contemplation, and sleep life, and the Mayavi Rupa, or the Mayavi Roop. We'll get into that in some time. From there is a little bit of a bonus. And this bonus is the Devachanic plane. So we've got the physical plane, we've got the etheric plane, we've got the astral plane. Right now we're talking about the mental plane. Within that, there's a nice topic called the Devachan, or the Devachanic plane. Deva, as we know, means gods, not God with a capital G, but God with a small g. Okay, small gods, or nature spirits, or nature devas. Okay, so there are various levels of. Okay, hang on, someone's taken control of the screen. All right, let's remove that then. Yeah. So we've got the 7 subplanes of the first heaven, subheaven, all of those various abilities, various factors which can be taken care of, okay, through the subplanes. Now we then go to the mental plane, the inhabitants of the mental plane, and the Akashic records. The Akashic records is an absolutely amazing, amazing series where it contains all the details, all the data that our lives have gone through. So the Akashic records is a summation. It's like a massive library of every bit of information that has ever happened and is happening, and perhaps to a certain extent, stuff that might happen. So think of it as a keeper of records, as a library of records of the entire universe. Akash in Sanskrit terms basically means ether or space. So the keeper of records, or the records of everything that happened in space, in time. So that's what the Akashic records are about. Then we're going into the death of the mental body, the personality and ego, rebirth, and again, back to discipleship. So the purpose of talking about discipleship in the very beginning and then concluding it with discipleship again is for the simple reason that our job as a soul, in this plane is to grow, is to evolve. So we grow and evolve from the physical plane, we go higher and higher, expand our consciousness until we go back to the source where we came from. And as one of the spiritual teachers observed, that one entire lifetime for us, an incarnated soul, is like one day at school for the higher soul. So all the stuff we've gone through in our world, in our life right now, is just like a day at school for the higher soul. And we're going to be going through more and more details. So then on, let's come on to the introduction and general description of the mental body and some of its workings. Are there any questions on this so far? Okay, right, moving on then. Now first, we have to consider the mental body is the vehicle through which the self, or the soul, manifests itself as concrete intellect. Let's just focus on this line for some time. The mental body is a vehicle through which the soul's intelligence is expressed. The mental body is the vehicle, is the channel through which the soul's intelligence is expressed. It has the powers of the mind. So the mind is just a subtle instrument of the soul. Well, it is worked out through the mental body. So memory, imagination, remembering things, even evolving spiritually, the mental body, it serves as a separate vehicle, as a separate instrument of consciousness in which a person can live and function very comfortably away from the physical and astral bodies. So you've got a physical existence. Okay, it's like this. Very basic example. Think of when you were in school in a really, really boring class. Okay, go back however number of years to go. For the younger ones, maybe you need to go back only a few years. For people who have a lot of gray hair and are starting to invest in hair care products, you might have to go back 20 years or more. So you go back 20 years or more, you think you're in school and the teacher's there saying, hey, are you paying attention? And your mind is off in a circus somewhere else. You're like way off out there. Okay, there is no mental and physical connection. The mind is in its own plane. The physical body is in its own plane. So at a very crude level also, the mind, the consciousness can live and exist in a world that's completely separate from physical reality. So the mental body deals with particular or concrete thoughts. Okay. Now here's the difference between, say, the mental body and causal body. For many reasons and purposes, the causal body, okay, which is the layer higher than the mental body. So you've got the physical body, then you've got the etheric body outside, okay, one layer above. Then you've got the astral body. Above that or around that, you've got the mental body, and controlling all of that is the causal body. Okay. The causal body, or the body of causes. The causal body is where our karma resides. Okay, so it's not like your karma is living somewhere far off. It's pretty much contained within you. You are contained within your own karma. It's where the higher soul resides. The mental body is capable of thinking specific thoughts. So it got particular and concrete thoughts, such as a specific book, maybe a specific house, maybe certain colors. In comparison, the causal body deals with principles and concepts. So while the mental body thinks of, say, a house, okay, your own house, the causal body deals with architecture. Suppose the mental body thinks of a particular book. The causal body has the capacity of how to write a book, how to teach people how to write. Okay, the mental body may be thinking, okay, I like the color blue, or I like the color green, or I like the color pink. The causal body is thinking, if I take multiple colors and I bring them together, I can create a new shade. So the causal body is concept oriented. Mental body is more concrete, very specifically oriented. So here, these two pictures over here, they illustrate like the difference between the capacities of the mental body and the causal body. So the mental body could just be like a book. Causal body is an entire library. Okay. So the mental body therefore deals with thoughts of the form. It's what is called rupa. Okay. The causal body deals with arupa, or formless thoughts. So a thought with a form, like a book, a specific book, a rupa, or a formless thought, is like an entire library. So you can take a rough example from, say, mathematics. Say you've got arithmetic, okay, which deals with particular numbers. It belongs to the lower form aspect of mind. So you know that 2 plus 2 is 4, and 12 into 12 is 144, right? That deals with arithmetic, basic numbers. Whereas algebra, this is where life starts to become really complicated for all of us, because then it starts dealing with numbers, okay? A plus B whole square, okay? X square plus Y square plus 2XY. You've got all these sudden concepts of X's and Y's, and why am I still dealing with my X? These kind of concepts start coming in, mathematically speaking, okay? So arithmetic, as an example, deals with the lower form aspect of mind, while algebra, causal oriented, deals with symbols representing numbers in general. These belong to the higher or the formless aspects of the mind. Now, the terms form and formless are, of course, we're not using these as absolute senses, okay? It's in a relativistic sense of term. So, for example, if there's a cloud, it possesses a form, but yet it's formless because you can't really hold a cloud in your hand. Neither can you stuff a cloud into a cup, okay? Whereas a house is, you can definitely touch a house, you can feel a house, you can touch a piece of wood, you can hold an entire forest, but again, you can't capture a flame, okay? You can't hold a flame, you can't hold a cloud. So in that sense, we're calling it relativistic. So one has a form and the other is a concept, okay? Is this part clear? Okay, we're moving on to the next slide. After having dealt with the concepts of mind, we're going to deal with mental elemental essence. Now, it's a very strange, semi intelligent, and intensely active life substance, and it plays a vital role in helping us to think. And a prominent feature in our study will be an examination of the kama manas, or the desire mind, and that is what which creates an entanglement between desire and thought. So let's look at this into some more detail. This entanglement between desire and thought is like this. Has it ever happened that okay, suppose you want to move into a new apartment, okay, and you've got this nice desire, okay, that I want to move into this locality and it's going to have these many bedrooms, it's going to be on this top floor, it's going to have a fantastic view, far away from any disturbances, far away from the crowd, all that kind of thing. And that's your desire. You're having that desire. And then what happens is your thought starts getting created around it. So the desire is what creates the spark, and the thought is what creates the concept around it. So then you start actively looking for listings, for advertisements where they're selling such kinds of apartments or condos, that I'm going to move into a bedroom, a 3-bedroom apartment with a proper kitchen, with this kind of a layout, this kind of things. And then something goes on, and then you realize that, okay, maybe the rent is too high, or maybe the owner of the apartment is just kind of crazy, or maybe it has a water problem. So your desire mind, your mind of desire, starts creating a certain reality around you. And then the other mind, the thought mind, it starts creating, trying to manifest that reality for you. So kama manas can be a really powerful tool. It can be an extremely, extremely powerful tool to help us manifest our reality. The only catch is you really have to work through all the details. You really, really, really have to work through all the details. So you must have an emotional component and a mental component in order for the kama manas to give you results. Now, this relationship, this entanglement of the desire or the astral and the mind, it's so intimate, so deep a relationship that certain esoteric schools, they go so far as to classify the astral and the mental bodies as one single vehicle of consciousness. Okay. And for the for all practical purposes, for the majority of humanity, for the majority of people who are spiritually still asleep, it's pretty much the same thing. They have very little distinction between their thoughts and their desires. So they have very, very little gap between what they think and what they dream. It's pretty much the same. Their feelings and their emotions is not distinct from their thoughts. It's all kept together. And that's for the majority of people who are still spiritually asleep. How do we awaken it? There are ways and means of doing so. There's meditation, of course. There is concentration, and of course, there's contemplation, which we're going to come into later on. All of this comes, it starts from an examination of who we are, what we can do, where we can take this information, and how we can take it forward. Now, as we study the mental body in some more detail, we will be able to examine, we'll be able to understand the workings of our own mind, right? We'll be able to understand the workings of our own mind. We will get to a point where we will start questioning our own beliefs, our own ideas, saying, okay, why do I believe what I believe? I believe that too much of sugar is not good for health. Okay. I believe that waking up early in the morning is good for health. Now, why do I believe that? Do I believe that because I've experienced it myself? Do I believe that because I read it in a magazine? Do I believe that because all my friends are saying so, or all my friends are doing so? Why do I believe what I believe? When we understand the workings of our own mental body, when we start to understand the workings of our own mind, we'll get a greater sense of awareness. And when we become more aware, we become more quiet. So we become still, we become aware. So the entanglement between the astral and the mental, it starts to separate. And we see the distinction in them. So for ordinary people, it's practically one and the same. For people who are on the spiritual path, who are actively studying, it begins to separate. Now, you have the physical body also. You've got the astral body, you've got the mental body, you've got all of these, but you have to consider the effect which the physical body and also the physical surroundings they have on the mental body and the workings of the mental body. So Suppose you're here, you're sitting there right now, and there's a disturbance in the environment. Your mind gets distracted. Or suppose you're suddenly aware of an SMS on your phone. Okay, and I'm on loudspeaker. Suppose I get a loud SMS alert on my phone, and I get distracted. I look down and I fiddle with my phone. That destroys my concentration. It, of course, has an effect on your concentration also. Naturally, the physical world cannot be entirely distinct from the mental world, because the physical body and the physical surroundings in general will produce an effect on the mental body and its workings. Now, there are certain very, very spiritually advanced people. There are stories of some people who are able to completely dissociate their physical from their mental. I remember in the book Autobiography of a Yogi, there was some mention, I think it was Autobiography of a Yogi, either that or it was Raja Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. I don't exactly remember right now, where this person, they had a great deal of pain. Some branch of wood had fallen on their knee, and they were in a great deal of pain. So what this person did was, they were on a journey. They simply dissociated their mind from the pain, from the body. So the physical body was there, they removed their awareness of that pain. They're able to complete that journey. Once the journey was completed, of course, they brought their awareness back, and they sought the necessary medical help and the necessary amount of healing. In general, that's the key word here. In fact, physical surroundings in general, they produce on the mental body and its workings. Now, we are at a stage, of course, where we are able to use our willpower to overcome our discomfort. Okay. I noticed this personally the most when I woke up in the morning and breakfast is not available. So then I have to say, okay, I am not the body. I am not the solar plexus. I am not all these amazing sounds which I can hear from my stomach. Okay. So I have to dissociate my mind very actively away from all of these things, and then focus on the work. And then, okay, sometime then I see that, okay, the food is ready. I can eat some more food, and I'm happy, and I go along with the rest of the day. For those of you who have attended classes with me, you do remember that I love to give examples of food. Now, that's the first part, the effect of the physical body on the mental. Conversely, we must also examine the effects of the mental body on the physical body and other physical objects. Case in point, someone is sitting around, they're just resting and relaxing. Suddenly, they get a bit of news which makes them super, super happy. Okay, someone's done really well. They get a SMS, they get an alert on their phone, and suddenly they feel really excited. Suppose you get a news that you're able to travel again and the pandemic is over, you'll feel super, super happy. Your heartbeat will go up, you'll feel flushed, you'll jump with excitement. So the physical body could be in a state of complete rest, but a bit of mental stimulation will cause the physical vehicle to become super, super active. So the physical body affects the mental affects the physical. It's an intimate kind of relationship. Now, similarly, it will become necessary to treat the astral body in a similar manner, namely, how the astral body influences the mental body and how the mental body in turn influences the astral body. So, again, we've got to keep this spiritual anatomy in mind. You've got the physical body, the etheric body, the astral body, the mental body, the causal body, enveloping the whole thing. So, one influences the other influences the one. It's a two-way traffic. Now, we shall take our attention off the mental body itself, and we shall see how it operates. We have to see how the faculties and the capacities of the mental body can be developed and trained, both while working through the physical brain and also when it's operating on its own account. So you've got the physical brain and it's using its mind, okay? And also when the physical body is disengaged and the mental body is operating on its own. We'll be dealing with that in some of the later sessions. Now, this naturally leads to a more deliberate training of the mental body, embracing concentration, meditation, and finally contemplation, leading us to mystic consciousness. Mystic consciousness comes much later. What we can do right now is we can do a test on concentration and meditation. Okay, so all of you are sitting down right now, I'm assuming. Are you aware of your tongue in your mouth? Not your tongue to your palate. Just be aware of the sensation of the tongue in your mouth. How heavy is it just sitting over there? Now, bring your attention to your little left foot, and the little finger on the left foot. Can you move that little finger? Try it. Concentrate. Now, bring your concentration up to your jaws. Feel the tension you're holding in your jaws. Feel the clenching of the jaws and then feel it relax. Just relax. Let the tension go. Do you feel the difference? Did you see, experience how your mind can be directed, how the mental awareness can be directed to various parts of the body and make you aware of things? That's concentration. Why is it concentration? Because the awareness is focused on a single point. It was focused on your tongue sitting in your mouth, it was focused on your foot, it was focused on your back, focused on your jaw, so on and so forth. You can just bring the awareness to different parts. And that's focused awareness, that's concentration, or what in the Sanskrit system, in the Yoga Sutras, is called dharana. The opposite of that is meditation, when you're aware of a great many things around you. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to use concentration meditation and a practical example and application of it. I'd like for everyone to please close their eyes, connect the tongues to their palate. Inhale slowly and exhale slowly. Keep the tongue connected to the palate. Inhale slowly, exhale slowly and deeply. Be aware of your physical body. Be aware of any pain in the body. Be aware of any discomfort. Just be still and be aware. Mentally say, I am not the body. The body is just the vehicle of the soul. Now visualize your physical body completely dissolving away. All the internal organs completely dissolving away. And you're floating. You're floating. I am not the emotions. Your astral body is also dissolving away. Simply feel the sensation of floating, the sensation of relaxation. Just inhale slowly and exhale slowly. Inhale the light, exhale. Inhale some more, exhale some more. Gradually visualize your astral body also dissolving away. I am not the thoughts. The emotions and the thoughts are the products of the soul. The carpenter is not the furniture. Take a deep breath. Just be still. Be aware of the light. Be aware of the light surrounding you in all directions. Be aware of the light passing through you, surrounding you. I am not even the mind. The mind is just a subtle instrument of the soul. I am the soul. I am that I am. Everything has dissolved away. You are a being of light, and feel this light spreading in all directions. I am that I am. I am a spiritual being of divine intelligence, divine love, divine power. I am connected to my higher soul. Now be still Be aware of the light increasing. Be aware of your light increasing. I am that I am. I am connected to my higher soul. I am one with my higher soul. I am one with the divine spark within me. Now visualize your awareness, visualize yourself, this light really expanding, covering the whole earth, floating above planet Earth. You can see Earth, the moon, the planets, the entire solar system. I am a child of God. I am connected to God. I am one with God. I am one with all. Spiritually, there is only oneness. Spiritually, there is only oneness. Spiritually, there is only oneness. Just enjoy this feeling of relaxation, this feeling of oneness. Take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale. Inhale slowly, inhale deeply. Exhale slowly, exhale deeply. Just be aware of the light. Now gently return to your body. Come down, down, down. Bring your awareness firmly back into your body. Be aware again of that little toe, that little finger on your left foot. Be aware of the little finger on your right foot. Move your toes, move your toes. Be aware of your back, be aware of your spine. Be aware of your fingers, move your fingers. Be aware of the tongue in your mouth, the tongue connected to palate, and open your eyes with a big smile. Take a deep breath. Atma Namaste. I am happy you are here. Be aware of everyone else in this session and mentally say, Atma Namaste. I am happy you are here. How are you feeling? How was the experience? So someone's typing in the chat box. So this was an interesting example, an application, a more conscious application of the exercise we usually frequently do. We are aware of us doing the soul affirmation, we are aware of us doing this, but when we have the mental body engaged, when we know some of the mechanisms of it, we can take our experience and possibly elevate it to another level. Wonderful. Why did you call us back? I called you back because you've paid for this session and you had better get your money's worth. So we have other topics to cover. Okay. If any of you could switch on your webcams, it'd be nice. Then we can have a little more interaction. We can see the nice blissed out expressions on everyone's faces. Okay. So any questions on this part? Okay. No questions on this part yet. So while we are still back, just do a few more stretches, maybe have a sip of water just to reintegrate into your body fully and enjoy the nice sensation. So hopefully you are now aware of the differences between concentration and meditation. Dhyana, which is meditation, in India it's called dhyana, and then as it traveled to farther away, in some countries it became known as Chen, in some countries it became known as Zen, and of course we call it dhyana or dhyan. And concentration is called dharana. So concentration is like taking your focus, your attention, and bringing it to one point. Okay, bringing it to one point, while meditation is taking your awareness and spreading it out and around. You are aware, but you're in a state of relaxation, you're in a state of bliss. That is what meditation does. Now, one of the things which will be, or the other factors which we'll be talking about is the using of the mental body during sleep of the physical body. Okay, while the physical body is asleep, how can the mental body work? How does it work and how it can be utilized? Then we'll get a short description and some explanation of the terms of the temporary mental body, which is called the Mayavi Rupa. Okay, they will talk about the life after death, after astral death. So what happens when the physical body dies, and what happens when the astral body dies, and what happens when the mental body dies. Then after some time we'll have to deal with the general principles that talk about mental life and the details of the mental life. And then from there we have to go into the bonus topics, which deal with the lower mental subplanes. Okay, what the theosophists they call devachan, and what I think in the Christian tradition is called the Christian heaven. Now, these are the words of the book itself that's mentioned in the book. None of these are my words. So, some of the terms are used by them, none of them me. Also, I must clarify that in this book, the term he was used. It doesn't mean that it only talks about males. It's meant to describe all of humanity, not excluding females. So the term he, if it's used anywhere, means men and women both. Okay, just have to clarify that. Now, after proceeding so far, we'll be in a position to have grasped the reality and possibilities of the mental plane, which can be regarded as a world, as a planet into itself. Okay, it has its own state of operations. We shall therefore study it as such a world, examining the nature of the world there and the general character of its phenomenon. So like you have anthropologists, you have historians and naturalists who study the physical world and the physical phenomena, we can be studying the mental world and the mental phenomenon and become, to a certain extent, proficient at its understanding. Amongst all of these, we shall find a certain interesting thing, which is a thought center. Okay, a thought center. We're keeping this part mysterious on purpose because when we come to it, it's going to be really, really nice. And from there on, we're going to jump to the most interesting Akashic records. So you might have heard of something which is an Akashic healer or an Akashic record reader. Well, it's possible to do once you have an understanding of the mental body. It is the memory of nature. It is the memory of space-time itself, in which everything is remembered, everything is recorded, so that it can be read by anyone who has the necessary qualifications, who has the necessary skills. Okay, why necessary qualifications? Why the necessary skills? Before you got into pranic healing, before you got into Arhatic yoga, were you able to scan or feel or sense energy? You weren't. But after this, it's pretty much second nature to scan and check. Similarly, if you don't have the training and the tools, can you just read the Akashic records just like that? Obviously, you can't. But with the training, with the understanding, you'll be able to understand how to read the Akashic records, how to access the information in an accurate fashion. Now, anyone can just claim that, okay, we are reading the Akashic records, and they can just claim anything. Anyone can claim anything. How do you validate? So the training, the tools, these are all necessary for getting into the Akashic records and more. After this, the next chapter will be devoted to the inhabitants of the mental plane. So if you remember in the last session, I think that was 2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, where we talked about, where Dr. Fazeli talked about the inhabitants of the astral plane, where you had the people who are the white light, the people, the black magicians and their disciples, and then you had the vampires and werewolves and all those other things and remnants. So astral is, in general, a more agitated kind of place. The mental is a more refined kind of place. So the energy of the mental plane, the mental worlds, is a more refined. So the next chapter will be going into the inhabitants of the mental plane. When you are in the mental plane, what are the kinds of beings, the kind of nature, the kind of scenery that you can experience and expect over there? That's one of the parts we'll be talking about. Now, of course, all of these planes, they have various planes and subplanes. So you've got the lower astral, higher astral, lower mental, higher mental, and then so on and so forth. So as a person passes out of the lower mental on the death of the mental body, then they will go into the higher mental. And from the higher mental, as they become more and more refined, more and more light, they pass on to the causal plane. Okay. Now, thus, this is called a pilgrimage. Okay. It's called a spiritual pilgrimage because it moves after physical death onto the inner worlds. So you've got what you call the outpourings. You've got this great sending of matter down, this sending of energy down into matter, comes in and then moves up through the astral, moves up through the mental, moves up through the causal and evolves. So it's a pilgrimage because, when you're having a pilgrimage, you start from home, you make a journey, you reach a certain place, and then you make a journey back. And once you've made the journey back, the entire experience has made you more evolved as a person, has made you more evolved as a soul. You've got a greater worldview, you've met new people, you've had new experiences. Similarly, The higher soul sends a portion of itself down into the world, and then it goes back after completing the entire lifetime, the entire journey, goes back up to the higher soul. It concludes what we call another pilgrimage. It's a spiritual pilgrimage. Okay. Now, in this book, in this particular volume, we will follow this soul's journey through the threshold of his true home. Okay. None of the apartments or the buildings we live in, the true home, which is the causal or the higher mental world. And we can get some idea of the relationship between the man in his three lower vehicles. What are the three lower vehicles? The personality and the individuality. Okay, personality, the causal body, and the individuality. So very simply put, you've got the physical body, you've got the incarnated soul, and you've got the higher soul, and you've got the divine spark over and above that. So these are the ways in which we'll trace the journey of the soul throughout. This aspect of the study will be dealt with the chapter on personality and the ego. So I'm just going to quickly go back to the table of contents over here. These are the various parts which we will have already covered by this time. Personality and ego, this is when we're moving into the latter part in our entire study of the mental plane. So this aspect of our study will be dealt with the chapter on the personality and the ego. From there, the journey starts again. They've come back home, man is at home for some time, and then the soul is at home for some time, and the journey starts again as they go back down to rebirth in the lower worlds. So it's a cycle of constant up, constant down, constant up, constant down, until the cycle is cleared and there is no need for reincarnating over and over again. And finally, lastly, one entire chapter will be devoted to the life of the person who has reached the stage where they are worthy to be accepted as a disciple. So at the start of the session, we mentioned that there's someone who's spiritually just casual, then becomes a seeker, then becomes an aspirant, then becomes a disciple, then becomes an initiate. So a disciple is already a very, very, very senior level, and they have to be accepted. Who are they accepted by? By the masters of the wisdom. These masters of wisdom serve humanity with, of course, wisdom, with tireless patience, never failing love, and infinite compassion. Okay, the word compassion is not mentioned over here, but they have a lot of love, a lot of compassion, and of course, wisdom. Okay. So today it is the reach of many, many people who can make themselves worthy. We have a lot of resources, we have a lot of tools, techniques, and hopefully we have the time also to evolve ourselves to make our mental body more sharp, more accurate, and therefore help our soul evolve at a much faster pace than simply sleepwalking through life. When we say sleepwalking, we mean spiritually sleepwalking, where you're constantly pummeled and attacked by the multiple problems, the vicissitudes of life. So it's also possible to set out categorically the qualifications necessary before that privilege can be conferred. So imagine you have a checklist which you can say, okay, have you done this? All right, you can be a disciple. Have you done this? Okay, you qualify to be a disciple. Are you doing character building? No. Problem. Are you doing purifications? Yes. Okay. Are you doing purifications every single day? Okay. Are you doing meditations? Okay, great. So imagine having a checklist, a spiritual checklist, which you can tick off in order to become spiritually more evolved. Amazing, right? So that takes care of the introduction part, and we come into this short theoretical chapter on mental elemental essence. Any questions on this so far? Okay, great. Now, mental elemental essence. After the formation of the atomic states of matter in each of the planes of nature, the third aspect, which is the Holy Spirit. So you've got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So as the Holy Spirit pours itself down into virgin matter. Okay, so this is what you call the Holy Spirit entering the Virgin Mary and giving birth to the, I think, baby Jesus. So that's the allegory. This is the simile, rather, which is used. This third outpouring of matter, so you've got God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, which you can just translate into God the power, God the love, God the light. These, I think that's the correlation between all of them. So this light aspect, pure light and pure matter. So pure light, esoterically, is seen as complete white. And pure matter is seen as complete black. Okay, why black? Because there's no light, or complete darkness. Okay, black is the wrong word. Complete darkness and complete light. So you've got complete light, and the journey between complete light and complete darkness, the meeting of the two, is when you've got multiple shades of dark and light which are emerging. So the gray shades which are in between. When the light enters matter, it awakens certain powers and possibilities. So you've got pure matter, which is lying dormant. You've got pure light, which can do a lot of things, but without any matter, it can't do anything. It's like, imagine that you have a physical body, but you're trapped inside the body. Okay, your eyes are closed, you can't move your hands and legs. Someone is comatose. If you ever read any documents, or if you talk to anyone who's come out of a coma, they'll say that they were trapped in their own bodies. Okay, they were conscious of people coming in, they're conscious of people talking to them, touching them, feeding them, cleaning them, but they were simply unable to respond in any way. So their mind, their awareness was there, but the physical vehicle was simply not responding. Right? So the matter was not working, the mind was working. So when you have the two of them working together, the two of them working cohesively, that's when there is activity. That is when there is progress. So when the light aspect enters the matter aspect, it results in the formation of the lower subdivisions of each plane. This outpouring of divine light is called by various names at various stages of its descent. When you see the whole thing as a big picture, the whole entire process, it is spoken of as a monadic essence. Okay, now let's just clarify. Some of the terms can be a little misleading, a little confusing. Monad basically means divine spark. Okay, ego, personality, monad, or rather, personality, ego, monad. Personality is the incarnated soul. Ego is the higher soul, and you got monad, which is the divine spark. So I think that's the technical term. Correct me if I'm wrong. The monadic essence, or the entire divine spark, is clothed by atomic matter. And it's only when it's clothed by this matter of the atoms can it supply permanent atoms to monad. So if you've done achieving once to the higher soul, you know what we're talking about. You've got the three permanent atoms, or the three permanent seeds. Now let's see visually how this looks. You've got these planes, okay? These various planes. When this third outpouring, when the light ensouls non-atomic or molecular matter, okay, you got molecules, it is called elemental essence. Okay, it's called elemental essence. Now this name was given by people from the medieval times, and they gave the name because they thought that these were elements. So as you know, they're elements, they're compounds, they're mixtures. You know, in chemistry, basic chemistry, we learn. So elements are the most basic founding block at that time. Okay, now of course we know that there are molecules, that there are atoms, and then subatomic particles, and so on and so forth. But at the time when this name was given, they only knew about the elements. Okay, so the basic elements, hence elementals. It's a very fundamental block of nature. So if you heard the term elementals, it just means one form of life, one type of life. So now mind you, this entire journey is going downwards. The entire journey is going from top to bottom. Now, when on its downward course, it energizes the matter of the three higher levels of the mental plane, which is basically this one. It's called the elemental kingdom, the first elemental kingdom. So you've got three planes, 1, 2, and 3. As it covers and enfolds the entirety of the first one, it's called the first elemental kingdom. Now, when it spans a whole part of time, a whole amount of time, it's what's called a whole chain period. Chain period, it's something that we covered in the solar system in one of the first Esoteric Study Club sessions. After spending a whole chain period in that evolution, it descends then to the 4 lower levels. Okay, so you've got 4 sub-levels here. The 4 lower levels of the mental plane, and over there it ensouls or captures what is called, animates what is called the second elemental kingdom for another chain period. And in this time it's called the mental elemental essence. Okay, so it's the first elemental kingdom, then it's the second elemental kingdom, and of course after that comes the third elemental kingdom. But these two together, okay, these two together basically comprise what we know as the mental plane. So there are 4 of the grosser subplanes and 3 of the finer higher planes of the mental planes. So after spending a whole chain period in this level of evolution, it descends to the 4 lower levels of the mental plane, and over there it ensouls the second elemental kingdom for another period of time. Over here it is known as what is called mental elemental essence. And the next chain period, the one after that, this part, this is what is called the astral plane. Here it is called the third elemental kingdom, or the astral elemental essence. So it starts with molecular matter at elemental essence, goes down, those three levels becomes the first elemental kingdom, then it goes down, becomes so the four sub-levels after that to the mental elemental essence, and below that, as it enters the astral plane, it becomes the third elemental kingdom, or what is the astral elemental essence. All of this is in a journey going down, right? So you can take a screenshot of this part if you want. It's just a visual depiction of the journey and what the names and terms are called. Okay, let's give you a few seconds for that. Moving on to the next slide. What is a chain period? A chain period is a time occupied by the passage of the life wave 7 times around the 7 globes of a chain. There are thus 49 globes or world periods in each chain period. I'm not spending any time on this because 2 very large sessions were dedicated on this. I'm not sure if the recordings are still available. It probably is. You can read up on that before. So going down, each of these 3 kingdoms is a kingdom of nature. So over here, where did the slide go? Yeah, there we go. Each of these, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, each of these are an entire kingdom by themselves. Okay. And its different forms of life are the animal and vegetable kingdoms with which we are more familiar, of course, in the mental plane. Moreover, on each kingdom, there are distinct types of rays. Okay, rays are personalities and the 7 subtypes. Have you heard of the 7 rays? Ray 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it's one of the topics which are esoterically quite frequently spoken about. Ray 1 relates to willpower, and you've got Ray 2, which is love, and Ray 3, which is of the mind, and so on and so forth. So it deals with the personality. So one part, as you can see, talks about the matter. Okay, animals, vegetables, plants, and so on. And the next part, all of them, they have certain personalities, which are denoted by the 7 rays. Now, both the mental and the astral elemental essences are very deeply, very intimately connected with man or with human beings and their bodies and the evolution of all of it. So as you study this more and more, you'll see the nature, the personality, the characteristics, all of these have a bearing on the personality and development of a person. Now, it's important to realize and understand that on both the astral and mental planes, the elemental essence is very distinct from just the matter of the planes. So you've got an essence and you've got the matter. They are very distinct. So when we talk about an essence, we're not talking necessarily about the matter that exists over there. And another point of great importance is that the life which animates both the mental and astral matter, it's on the downward or outward arc of evolution. So for them, for those who are descending from mental to astral, for them, evolution means to go down deeper and deeper into matter. Okay. Whereas for others, the evolution is an upward process. So for them, evolution is a downward process as they're going down. For others, it's an upward process. It depends on which stage of evolution you're at. And of course, for us, the whole chain of evolution is just going round and round all the time. For man, as we just spoke about this, evolution is just the opposite of this. Man has already sunk deeply into matter and now rising out of the matter, going back up towards the source. Okay. Now, this, of course, is a constant conflict of interest between the man within. So you have a person, right? And they have this desire they have this need for money, for physical needs, for food, for clothing, for rising ahead in life, physical comforts, physical needs. And the same person has spiritual needs. They want to be of service to humanity, but they also feel irritated. They want to help and reach other people, but they have financial limitations. So a human being on the spiritual path is constantly vacillating, oscillating between both of these two things. The physical needs, which are pulling them down, but which is necessary. And you have the spiritual needs, which are pulling them up, but they're also caught in between. So as Master Chokuksi so beautifully says, spirituality and materialism are like the 2 wings of a bird. You need both to fly, okay, and rise up. And at what point is it being super, super spiritual, but then there's no one to feed you, and then it all goes to waste? Or what's the point of being super material, super rich and successful, but if you have no one to share it with, no one to share the love with, then what's the point? So you need both. You need a balance of both. The full bearing of this, the entire importance of this, we shall see it later in other chapters as it goes on. So we've covered one entire chapter, the entire general introduction. We're now going into composition and structure. It's just a short part. The whole chapter will take up from this the next time. So starting with the composition and structure of the mental body. The mental body is built of the particles of the four lower subdivisions of the mental world, okay? And the mental matter corresponds to the lower four subdivisions of astral matter. Like, okay, it's like, let's just make it simplified. You got solid, liquid, gas, and plasma in the physical world. Similarly, in the astral world, you've got solid, liquid, gas, and plasma of the astral world. And then in the mental world, you've got the solid, liquid, gas, and equivalent. So every time you have solid, liquid, and gas, there's a physical component, there's an astral component, there's a mental component. Very simply put. Okay. And of course, above this, there are the three more finer levels, okay, which is more refined. The three higher grades of mental matter are used to build the causal or the higher mental body. So the mental body, again, two parts, mental plane, the lower part of the mental plane, mental body, higher part of the mental plane, causal body. This distinction must be very clear. Lower part, mental body, those four, and upper part, those three, the causal body. In addition to just regular mental matter, the mental body also contains the mental elemental essence, that is the matter from the second elemental kingdom. So just go back to that slide over here. So this portion here is basically what is the mental body, this whole thing there. And the stuff above is what is what is called the causal body. The physical body is basically kept alive through love. The same thing applies in the astral and the mental bodies also. In the cell, life which permeates them, there is no separate distinctive intelligence, but they have a desire for living. So if you look at small life forms, tiny life forms, all of them, they don't have an intelligence as such. We're talking, of course, about microscopic animals or creatures, but they have a desire for life and living. This same kind of consciousness, the same kind of desire for life and living permeates us in the mental body, in the astral body, and so forth. The shape of the mental body is like an oval, okay, like ovoid. The characteristics of this will be seen and studied in greater detail. The matter or the substance and the composition of the mental body is not evenly distributed throughout the egg. In fact, let me just show you a picture of this egg first. This is what basically the mental body looks like. And then we can come into more details on what the various parts of it are. Okay, so you've got multiple colors over here. You've got these pokey things on the top. This whole shape is like an oval. Okay, not exactly like an egg, but kind of. Right? And you've got the human being which is inside. So you've got the physical person, then you've got the energy body, the etheric double, you've got the astral body, and finally you've got the mental body. Multiple colors. Now, if you remember from the session on thought forms, and also to a certain part we covered in the astral body, there were various colors and there were various textures, colors and textures and shapes which were discussed. You can see some of them over here. So you've got the color gold or the color yellow, which deals with higher mental matter or higher mental faculties. As you can see, this golden kind of color is around the head area of the person. So let's just go back to this previous slide over here. The matter of the mental body is not evenly distributed throughout the egg. Okay, in the middle of this oval is the physical body. This physical body strongly attracts the astral matter, and the astral matter very strongly attracts the mental matter. Okay. Now, consequently, the greatest part of both the astral and mental bodies is gathered within the physical frame. So, therefore, to a clairvoyant, the mental body appears as if it's built of mist. Okay, in the shape of the physical body, and the physical body is surrounded by much finer mist. So, let's clarify this some more. Let's look at it here. You've got the physical body. The physical body attracts the astral matter, and the astral matter attracts the mental matter. So, physical, astral, mental. So the most of the matters, astral and mental, they are sort of contained within the frame of the physical body, okay, within the entire framing of the physical body. And of course, it's not entirely contained within. Some amount of it is obviously outside. So when a trained clairvoyant looks at the astral or mental bodies, it appears as a mist, as a very fine mist, which is surrounding the physical body. For this reason, an acquaintance in the physical world is easily recognizable in the mental world, because the mental matter is composed within the physical body, is kept within the physical body, when they are traveling in the mental world, the mental matter still retains that kind of shape and form. So you just recognize a person in the mental body. So if you're sleeping and your consciousness has evolved and you see someone in the mental world, okay, chances are you've met that person in the mental world. In the astral world, we knew that there's a lot of fluidity. If someone thinks that they're big, they're big. If someone thinks they're short, big, fat, thin, tall, whatever. Okay. In the astral world, there are many tricksters who play tricks, who take on the shapes and other things. However, in the mental world, because of the strong attraction, because of the cohesiveness of the whole thing, someone in the mental world will pretty much have the same appearance as the physical world. They'll be easily recognizable. The portion of the mental body which projects beyond the periphery of the physical body forms the mental aura. This statement, this particular statement here, the portion of the mental body which projects beyond the periphery of the physical body is called the mental aura. So you've got the mental body, okay? And the portion of the mental body which is projected outwards through the physical is the mental aura. So what is the difference between the mental body and the mental aura? I like to think of it as, say, let's look at this cup. So you've got this cup, and if I fill this up with very hot tea, okay, with a lot of hot tea. Now, when I touch the cup, my hands will get burnt because the cup is very, very hot, okay? But if I'm sensitive and if the tea is that hot, if I bring my hand closer to it, like from a distance itself, I should be able to feel that, okay, that this cup is warm, okay? We don't have to touch it directly to feel, it's hot. So think of this cup as the physical body. Think of the energy inside as the mental energy. Because you've got the physical body, it attracts the astral, it attracts the mental, you've got this entire energy within it, but a portion of that mental energy is outwards. The heat of the mental body is projected outwards. And this is what creates the mental aura. This has created the mental aura. So the body is different from the aura. So body plus overflow creates the aura. Nice mental drink. The size of both the astral and mental bodies is the same as that of the causal body, or to be more accurate, one of the sections of the causal body as on the lower planes. So unlike the physical body, which has pretty much remained the same size, okay, since years and years, millennia and millennia, the mental body grows in size as the person themselves develop. So the mental body basically says, as you are developing, your mental body is growing in size, in shape and size, but your physical body is not. Can you imagine what we would look like if with more wisdom we grew bigger? Can you imagine? So the giants would be people who are actually physically giants because mentally they're that developed, but we know that's not the case. So small people, big people, that's a very weird way of correlating. So therefore, the physical body stays the same size. It doesn't get changed. But the mental body, that expands in size. In spite of the real fast motion of the mental body at the same time has a very loose kind of organization. Now this part, the development of the mental body and how it works, it can be in short summarized as this. There are parts of the mental body which are not yet fully developed. Okay, so you have some people who, if you talk to them, if you're speaking to them, you'll find that they find it difficult to understand certain subjects, certain topics. While some people, they read a topic, they just think about it, they spend 1 or 2 days, and they've come back and they're already really, really experts at it. Okay, this is most commonly seen in, say, mathematics, where people, I know I had a problem with mathematics when growing up. Reading about it, I read the same chapter, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, and still I have no comprehension of it. But my classmates, okay, they would not only they read a part of the chapter and say, oh, these are the principles, I've got it, and they derive their own equations. So certain parts of the mental body, depending on the activity, depending on how much it has evolved, certain faculties can work like this, like a snap. While certain other faculties, they take a lot more time to develop, and even so, they require a lot of practice. This is why some people are they have a head for mathematics, while others are just completely unable to perform even a simple mathematical operation. This is why some people instinctively understand, enjoy, and appreciate the fine nuances and qualities of music, while some other people, they probably don't even know the difference between pop music and rock music, myself included. So this is the part where we talk. This is how much we shall talk about today. And in the next subsequent sessions, we'll be going into details about the composition structure. We've covered that. More functions, typical examples, karma manas, the desire mind, thought waves, thought forms, and so on. And then next time, if we have some more time, we'll talk about the mechanism of thought transference. Okay. In the session after that, we'll probably continuing the unconscious and forms of thought transference, touching upon concentration, meditation, contemplation, and so forth. And by the last session, we'll be covering all the bonus topics, which include Devachan. So that's it for today's session. Let's, if you have any questions, please, now is a good time for them, or you can put on the group and we'll try to answer them so that it's there on record. The recording for this will be available. I'm sorry the session got disconnected in between, but we're going to try and convert the recording, and it'll be uploaded and shared within the next couple of days altogether for everyone. And the next session will be next Saturday at the same time. So thank you, all of you, for joining us. Let's end with a prayer of thanksgiving. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, to my spiritual teacher, Master Chokuksui, to all the spiritual teachers, the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers, to my higher soul, to my divine self, to the angels of theosophy, to the masters of theosophy, we thank you for your priceless blessings of illumination, of guidance, for helping us understand these abstract topics, these concepts, that we may become more evolved, better souls, better channels, better instruments for spreading the light, that we may be of help to humanity, to the world, to all sentient beings in all 8 directions, above and below, in the higher world, in the middle world, in the lower worlds, that we may become conscious instruments of active service. Thank you in full faith. Thank you, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining in. Atma Namaste.